Anyways, our next movie of the week was my request, that being the 2005 film Hostel. This is a movie about American tourists. They're trying to get their friend some strange because his girlfriend broke up with him, or he broke up with his girlfriend. I don't know. One of those two options. Doesn't matter. They're in Europe. They get fucking trafficked, and there's like some operation going on where basically they'll traffic foreigners into this like torture chamber facility where rich European guys can go in there and torture people, and they can like pay for the ethnicity and all that. And one of them escapes, and there's like a little bit of an action scene about them escaping. Yeah, it's mostly just kind of like generic horror film schlock. I don't know why this film's so notorious. Anyways, haiku time.
Haiku as inspired by Hostel. American Coomers on the prowl for Europus. Help local business.
I gotta follow the trope because I'm known for this kind of thing. I completely missed the cue that rich European diplomat people, or whatever you want to call them, could pay to go in and torture people. I just figured this was like... Yeah, no, I didn't know that people were paying to do it. I just...
Bro, missed the point of the entire
what
movie.
About that scene? What about that scene where he gets into that one room and meets that other American guy, and literally on the wall, there's like... Or not on the wall, he finds that note that has like the name of different nationalities with prices next to him, and that entire fucking conversation he has with the guy.
I thought that's how much people got paid to torture them.
A guy who is murdering someone else spells out that he's not fucking getting paid to do this shit. He's paying them. Yeah, I feel like they spell it out pretty plainly here.
I missed that part. I was not into this movie at all. I was extremely put off by, like, I don't remember what the interaction was exactly. It was when they got to the last building at the end of the movie, where he was talking to, like, that Asian guy. And he's like, anything worth anything in there, or whatever he said. And he said something like, only if you have the money. And I'm like, that's a really weird thing to say. Like, I know what this building is. I don't know what that's supposed to mean. Yeah, no, I literally thought, based on, like, the type of person, whether, like, American or, like, European or something, I thought, like, it was, like, a facility that, like, they captured people, and then these other people who were torturing them were, like, basically employees, and they got paid a certain amount of money to torture these people, and then that's what I thought that each person was valued at. Like, if you got an American, you got paid $25,000 to torture that person. And that's what I thought it was.
How does that make any fucking sense?
I just thought they were, like, some kind of lunatic cult murder gang of people or something, considering they had a whole routine going down. And then, like, it was like the ladies were like, yeah, I get paid to bring people here. So I was like, oh, okay, so this is like a lunatic murderer cult thing where people get paid to bring people in and kill them.
I feel like there's a non-zero chance you're gonna give this a faulty rating by your own standards because of how fundamentally you misunderstood what was going on here.
I mean, that hardly has anything to do with my rating of the movie anyway, but I guess we'll find out by the time we get there. I don't know, I just thought this movie was disturbing in more ways than one. This is not my kind of movie in any way, shape, or form. I completely missed the point of the plot. Like, I'm sitting here watching this movie, and I asked myself a couple times, why does this movie exist? It wasn't terrible. Like, I could acknowledge, like, the setting and the environment, the acting was pretty good, but I was just like, I don't enjoy watching this movie. I was just literally sitting there waiting for it to end, and just like, this is kind of whatever. Like, it wasn't Terrifier bad, but still, it was... I can't appreciate a movie I have to look away from the screen from.
I'm curious, Dylan.
Yes.
What did you notice anything, or did you have any thoughts come to mind during that scene where it is after he escapes the torture room and he meets that guy who is about to go and torture someone, and they have that conversation? Was there anything that stood out about that scene to you?
The guy who was trying to escape should have acted more like a guy who was paying to torture people rather than a guy who's completely out of it despite the trauma. And that guy who was torturing people should have definitely caught on that he was not a guy who was paying money to torture people. That's about all I got from that.
Okay. That's interesting. So,
be given my new definition.
Earlier you said the acting was pretty good. The acting is actually dog shit throughout this entire thing, except for that scene, because that one guy who plays that rich person is weirdly much, much better at acting, and it's very noticeable in this scene. Like,
it was very
the quality of which that man is able to give his lines and act in that scene really puts in perspective how bad everyone else in the movie's acting is. And I was hoping you would notice that, but evidently not.
I mean, it was very off-putting. I was like, this guy gives me really different energy, but I also just figured they were trying to paint him as like a lunatic, rich guy.
Right, and he did a good job of that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and he did that. He did a good job.
Okay. It's hopeless, guys.
I like how this entire review has just been, Dylan, you fucking dipshit. Anyways, let's talk about the actual movie itself.
Fuck
this movie
you,
has
Jackson. Fuck you.
50 different pairs of knockers in it. This is minimum an A-, I think.
Yes, sir.
What the fuck? I hope you're joking.
Of course I'm fucking joking. I think the best part about this movie is just the roaming gang of kids that like to run around and extort candy and other miscellaneous things out of people, and then them being used later on to literally murder a man and bash their skull in with a fucking rock. That shit's crazy.
Two men,
yeah, my bad. Yeah, no, this movie is very weird. It's like super generic horror movie setup. Eventually, it's kind of a little cool with the setup where they kind of introduce you to what's going on and like feeding you the information. The escape scene is like, it suddenly turns into like a fucking like action movie in the end with the escape scene. Was like my comedy mix in. I do appreciate the movie, at the very minimum, for giving us any amount of relief for what's going on here. Like, normally with these horror movies, I feel like you don't really get to see a ton of payoff to the actions of these horrible people. But no, this fucker runs over the people that trafficked him 2 goddamn times.
Well,
kills multiple of the random guards that are going on here. Kills people that were partaking in the torturing. He gets some fucking work done, and I can appreciate the movie for that. Of course, at the very end, we did watch the director's cut, which means we saw the ending of him kidnapping the guy's daughter. And the original one, he fucking slices the guy's throat and, like, chops off his finger or something in the bathroom. But yeah, no, we see him kidnap his daughter, which I think is much more grave. What the fuck is he planning on doing with the daughter? Pretty fucked. I don't know how to...
Well, hold on, because I feel like you can interpret that 2 different ways, because the way I interpreted that was, your dad's a fucked up guy, I'm gonna get you away from him so you don't have to be involved with a fucking monster like him.
No, I think it's just to fucking launch that guy into horrific agony.
Yeah, I don't know. I was actually gonna ask you guys how you felt about the ending. Was that the play?
I think the ending was badass. Personally.
I agree. I think it was a really slow and boring first 2/3 that I think doesn't have a lot of value, but I think it has an incredibly strong finish, and I was thoroughly entertained pretty much from when they started torturing him until the very end. Like, I thought a lot of that stuff was kick-ass, and I loved it.
But like, the biggest issue with all that stuff is that it requires an unbelievable level of a suspension of disbelief for all of it.
Bro's a fucking ninja that can, like, teleport and shit. There's so many scenes where, like, there's people walking down a hall. Like, for example, the scene where he goes into, the changing room for the people that are torturing. There's people walking down the fucking hall, and he sees them, and somehow he was able to open the door, get into it, close the door without them being seen in, like, a matter of, like, milliseconds, basically. And there's plenty of scenes where he just does that shit. He just fucking teleports into a safe spot. It's very funny.
Yeah, like, even with, like, the ending, when he fucking kidnaps the girl, just nobody notices that he's fucking bringing this kicking and screaming child onto the train, and she's fucking screaming at the window, and no one seems to be doing anything about it.
Literally 2 women walked out of the bathroom in the span of time, so they're presumably in the bathroom during the kidnapping. I mean, he went into the women's bathroom, kidnapped a fucking daughter probably in front of 2 other women, and then brought her screaming through a fucking crowded-ass train station onto a train crowded train filled with a bunch of other people while he's holding her as she's screaming.
Well, you know how kids are. Sometimes they just scream and throw tantrums.
That is true, and also I was presuming that like the little girl got done in the restroom first and was waiting outside for her dad, and that's when he grabbed her. He didn't.
You're trying to tell me that a woman finished going to the bathroom before a man?
It was a child. She was just pretending to go.
I can't take my suspension of disbelief that far, Tanner.
To add even more, like, disbelief to this scenario, because you also have to imagine, he had to wait for the guy to be in the bathroom, not paying attention, to drop off the scalpel on the counter's edge, be able to leave the bathroom, go back into the women's bathroom without causing a commotion from women seeing him, if that was the case, grabs the daughter, goes back, and slips by the bodyguard that is stationed with that guy and, like, onto the train. So, like, even if the kid was screaming and crying and throwing a fit, it could be like, oh, she's just being a kid. But also the bodyguard was there. So, like, what really happened?
Well, he, like, waved off the bodyguard right before that, which I don't know why he would do that, but...
Yeah, I don't... But, I mean, yeah.
For me, it was entertaining
was
enough that my suspension of disbelief was not broken. So, kick rocks, I guess.
I guess. I don't really know what to think about it. I think there was just so much going on, and I think some reason my brain was lulled into a sense of just, it's fine, because all of that happened, and I didn't even, like, stop to think, like, hold on a second, how did all of this... I mean, I guess I thought it for a second, but I didn't want to put the brain power into thinking of how it could be possible, so I guess it's my own fault, but whatever.
No, that's your suspension of disbelief working, dude.
There we go.
And also, it was just, like, fucking him running back into the place that he just escaped from to save this other random girl, you know, so, like...
Yeah, I didn't get that. I don't know why he... I get it's, like, a human instinct to, like, the betterment of humanity is to go and help your fellow, you know, human.
Except for those other people getting tortured. Fuck them.
Yeah, I know. I was like...
They're not hot Asian women.
I don't know what, like, led him to do that, though. Like, he just hears one scream... And then I don't know if he's, like, forced to believe it's Kana, and then he's like, oh my god, I have to save her.
It's her.
But, like, also, why? Like, I think if you're in that much trauma, that much shock, I don't think you would go back to the place you narrowly escaped from unless he was just that confident he'd get back out.
Yeah, no, it's really fucking stupid.
Yeah. Which, like, all the characters in this movie are really fucking dumb, by the way.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
though...
That's, like,
just one of the many stupid decisions that they make throughout it.
Yeah, and he wasn't even punished for it, which is kind of the opposite of what we're used to in horror movies, where if a character makes a dumb decision, they usually pay for it with their life, but...
I mean, he lost a couple fingers, and
he lost it beforehand, though. Like, I'm talking, like, when he went back into the building. Like, he didn't get any repercussions for that. Yeah, all else aside, I remember at the beginning of the movie, like, I was like, I am, like, 100% this guy that they're trying to get over his ex. Like, I'm like, the personalities match, our behaviorisms match, like, all that stuff. I was like, this guy is me, and then he died. Even though I was convinced that guy was gonna be, like, the guy that, like, is gonna be the... Cause
they do straight up just switch which one is the main character, like, halfway through.
Yeah, which, I don't know if it's a bad thing or not. I thought it was a very interesting... plot turn, I guess you could call it.
I'd agree it's interesting.
I like it, actually, because it kind of throws you off, because you don't expect the first guy that gets killed, or not the first guy, but, you know, the fucking smart guy, I guess, the cautious man, to die initially. You expect him to be the one that survives, so him getting fucking ganked, it was actually pretty surprising for me. And then I thought it was just going to be a type of movie where we'd just see everyone fucking die. I didn't expect him to actually, like, make an escape, because, you know, the guy hadn't presented himself to be any amount of competent in this sort of situation. So I like that, at least. There was a little bit of, you know, mystique to it. Yeah.
Yeah, and, like, I can almost appreciate a horror movie where you can at least question at one point, like, okay, is this a movie where everybody dies, or is this a movie where there's one survivor? Because it's usually one or the other. It's not really anything outside of it, so...
And, to touch on one more thing here, as Jackson was saying, like, in his fucking summary of the film, Hostel has quite the reputation around it, and... this really was nowhere near as disturbing as I was expecting it to be. This really was, like, just kind of a horror movie. Like, I don't think it was any worse than, like, House of Wax at all.
Honestly, I think House of Wax is worse than this, just in terms of, like, brutality.
Yeah.
I kind of put them on the same level for me personally, but that's for multiple reasons, not just the body horror shit. I personally cannot... like, when it comes to live action, I can't handle body horror. For some reason, if it's animated, it's fine. But... you know.
And also the tits, you can't forget about that. That also disturbed you.
Mama. I wasn't too particularly fond of this movie in many regards.
And speaking of being fond of this movie in different regards, Tanner, what'd you rank this one?
I gave Hostel a B-.
Whoa.
Wow. Dude, Jackson, how about you?
Yeah, I wouldn't give it anywhere near that high. I do have my benefits of this film. I like some things that it does, but it's also really stupid. It's really fucking boring for 2/3 of it, and it's not a very well-made movie, generally speaking. I give it a D+.
Yeah. Dylan, where are you ranking it?
I gave it a C.
Oh my god.
All of that for a C?
Oh my god. Yeah, I'm also giving it a D+. I was fully expecting to give it like a fucking F tier, like low D.
Yeah, I really expected an F from you as well, though. That's crazy.
F is
Guess
unwatchable.
what? You guys are cringe.
Anyways, that lands at a C overall, I guess, putting it right in the middle of the other two Little Brave Toaster films.
Joke's on you guys. I was farming those green check marks. I played the system.
Green.
Some green check marks, baby.
Yes, sir.